Hopefully he does.
The Cash In, weeknights at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific on Sports Map Radio.
Bet on the ball game. Get your money down. Money lines, totals, and parlays. We're cashing tickets all around.
It's baseball betting season, and VSiN's 2023 MLB betting guide is a home run for bettors. Download your free special edition of VSiN's 2023 MLB betting guide at sportsmapradio.com. That's sportsmapradio.com.
The diehards.
Rafael Devers signs the big contract.
Yep.
He's the star. He's the stud.
D, I call him.
Who's the next star? Who's the next star in this Boston rotation?
Well,
lineup.
I hope it's Chris Sale. Or I hope it's. I mean, they got.
Could it be Verdugo, who was the big piece in the Mookie Betts? That ship sailed.
Yeah. I think from people that have been down.
What about Yoshida?
That just took the thing. My people that have been down there, that work down there, been around the team.
How's he look?
They've been over the moon about this kid.
Does he have superstar qualities? Does he have that?
I don't know what the word superstar's in play, but
star.
Yeah, he does. From what I don't know, I'm not saying I know, but guys that I know that that work there that aren't boobs, are saying that the juice is in on Yoshida.
Hey, Brian McDonough running Rock and Roll Control in Houston. That could be a promo. In analysis, they aren't boobs.
Yeah, exactly. It's the key to life. Avoid boobs.
You can't be boobs.
No.
The Diehards, weeknights from 8 to 10 Eastern on the Sports Map Radio Network.
Wake up calls.
I want to thank Anthony Pepe and the Diehards. I was on the show last night to talk about the start of the Formula One season last night, and those guys are really fun. So, a bunch of New England guys shared my New England experience. It was a good time. Anthony Pepe does a really good job.
See, but you don't say that because we're not going to be able to get their heads in the studio.
No, that's very true. They informed me that they liked our promos.
Well, that's the first thing they've said right all year.
Right.
Wake up call with Tony B and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings from 9 to noon Eastern.
You're listening to the Let's Talk Wheels radio network. Here's Jeremy Birnbaum and Mike Herzing.
Welcome back. Let's Talk Wheels. Mike Herzing and Jeremy Birnbaum. Okay, folks. Jeremy, like many of us, I love cars, just like you. Every week I run across some car I just gotta have. Man, how can I find a way to put this either in the barn at the lake or in my garage, and I end up talking myself out of it because I don't have the room or the cash for any more toys,
That's usually my problem is the finances, right?
Yeah, I just bought a skid steer, so I don't have any room for that. But I find myself looking now. I decided, what I do like a lot of friends. I'll look at motorcycles, because they're smaller.
Yeah, they take up less space. You can maybe put 4 or 5 in the space of one car.
Yeah, easily. And I'm like, I'm working on this Yamaha 650. Classic 75 Yamaha 650 and make it into a street tracker, and I'm like, it's just there's so many things to do, and I'm looking at maybe getting a dual sport and then do this or do that. I'm just like, when it's such a pretty springtime, and then when it's 98 degrees with 90% humidity, and then I don't want to ride the motorcycle, or if it's freezing cold, I don't want to ride. So how do you get past all this, Jeremy? Is there a group for us? Is there a support group, or it's like AA or something, or I don't know. AAA?
You know what? I think part of it is just going out and riding with friends and getting to enjoy other people's stuff as well. Then you don't have to. You kind of enjoy something, and sometimes you get in something and you're like, you know what? That's not for me.
Right. I was riding in a Cobra, Shelby Cobra, and I was like, it just doesn't fit. And then you drive it in the summertime, it's so hot because of the side pipes. I'm like, boy, they look so cool, but they're really in the summertime you can't drive them. In the wintertime they're too cold. But I mean, it just they're so, but they look so cool,
Yeah. You and I are fortunate. We get to experience a lot of cars, so you get to learn what you like and what you don't like. But a lot of times you start liking something without any reason. You've never been in one, and that's when people start telling me they do a lot of research looking to buy something they've never been in. I have a coworker that's been looking at a Corvette, has been going back and forth with the seller for a long time. And I said, have you driven one yet? He said, no. And I said, you don't have to go drive the one you're thinking about buying, but go sit in a late 70s Corvette. They're not that comfortable. Make sure that this time you're spending and you're investing into this car that you really want it, And a lot of times you end up getting to that point. My dad used to say, buying is easy, selling is hard. It's kind of that thing. You get the car, and you experience it for a little bit, and you go, okay, either liked it or I didn't like it. And then when you go to sell it, it's not as easy as it was when you went to buy it,
Yeah, you're right. And the Corvette is exactly right. You look at the C3s and C4 Corvettes, they were hard to get in and out of. C5 was a dramatic,
huge change.
Huge change. Now those are pretty nice. You could get them at a really good price, and they drove really well.
Yeah,
That's
when you start getting into the Corvette as being a real, bona fide sports car again.
Right. Yeah, they were okay before, but they were rattled and squeaked and they were hot, and they were really uncomfortable. But boy, but they look good,
Yeah.
But it's, it was, but the C5s were so much better.
And you start seeing that now, the early 90s cars are really picking up in appeal. And I think people are realizing that a lot of the cars that came out in the 90s are very drivable. Their performance aspects are pretty good. And right now you can pick them up for a decent value.
You can pick up something really inexpensive as Monte Carlo.
Yeah.
But the interiors were so crappy on them. A friend of mine's having to redo so much on it. He bought one, got it at a good price, a 71 Monte Carlo.
Yeah, you can get those for a good price, but they don't have any performance aspects of some of the Monte Carlos of the late 60s, right? And then, they kind of get neutered through all the government regulations through the 70s and 80s. Right. I think there's some better cars you can find.
It's like finding a 69 El Camino versus a 79 El Camino,
Oh yeah, it's a huge difference. They look pretty similar, but the driving characteristic is totally different.
Yeah, and it just, I don't know, but it's just, you're right about driving it, and so but it's hard to do.
It's hard, but I find going to car shows like this weekend. I started talking to this guy about the Lotus, and they realize you're on a similar level, and the guy's, hey, you want to go for a ride? And it's like, you get to experience a car that you wouldn't unless you had to go out of your way and go tell some guy you were thinking about buying one. Could I test drive yours? It's not like the car's been in a dealership or anything like that. Right. It hasn't been in production for 20 years.
Well,
so
yeah,
I mean, asking questions is always the best way to learn. It sounds stupid.
Years ago, my brother-in-law, my dear departed brother-in-law, was looking at a car. He didn't know nothing about cars. We were at a weekend car show, and he goes, "I like that car." I said, "Yeah, it's like a '68 Shelby GT350. I would think you would like it." He said, "Maybe the guy will sell it to him." And he went over to him, and the guy wouldn't sell it. I said, "Well," he said, "I want to get me one of those." And I went. I said, "They don't stop good. They don't drive good. They look beautiful. They don't handle all that well. They're wonderful cars, don't get me wrong.
And they're quite expensive.
But for you that want to just turn the key on and drive it, it's not for you, Robert.
But if he loves the looks, you get a tribute where it's not a big deal to put big disc brakes on the front and rear. Well, all the things that are a negative about the original, you can beef up a tribute or a clone.
He went to Classic Recreations in Oklahoma City, and they built him one for $125,000. That was a genuine Shelby, but it was a resto mod, basically. They took a 68 Mustang and did this, and it was on the Shelby registry, the whole bit, and it had a side oiler, brand new crate engine, and it had fuel cell, it had a Tremec 5-speed, it had disc brakes, it had power steering, it had, fuel injection. It started right up. It ran perfectly. It drove good. It was the color when it took them a year and a half to build it. And when we went and looked at it, I said, he goes, "I like that maroon one." And he goes, "We can't have that one. That's Lewis Hamilton's."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so, but he had the one that was 700 horsepower. This was only 525. And he drove it for a couple of years and he liked it, but it was really not what he really wanted. But when he pulled up to the golf course, everybody just stopped. and swarm the car. And he ended up selling it for about a $50,000 profit. They kept calling him and bugging him to buy it, and they eventually sold it. And I said, I know what you really need. So he bought a CTSV Cadillac, 556 horsepower, and that was his car.
That's a modern comfort cruiser right there. But you hear these stories all the time. Guys get these cars for a bit, and then some people are serial collectors. They never sell anything, and some people are every 2 years they just move on to the next. Sometimes they try and upgrade. You make a little bit of money, you go up a little bit more, and you get some cool stuff that way.
They called me back 5 times, and he kept telling them no, and they keep coming up with a higher price each time, and they finally went, okay, you can have it. They were there the next morning with a truck and the check, and he said, I got enough to go buy this Cadillac I was looking at. I said, perfect. Bought a brand new one, cash, and I was like, okay. Loved it. He ended up buying another one afterwards, but it was a wonderful car. But every time I went somewhere with it, it was just, it was blue with the white stripes on it. And just people would just stop.
It's hard to park and walk away from your car sometimes when you have a nice ride like that. As soon as you get into a parking lot, people are coming up to you, and it gets to be a lot sometimes.
Side pipes and all. Boy, I tell you what, it was a beast. All right, folks. I hope you enjoyed the show. It was really fun today, talking to Tim Healy about the Dodge Hornet, and talking to Jeremy. And so if you guys have any questions about that stuff, be sure to let us know. We sure appreciate everybody and talking stuff. And eventually we'll get Jeremy to send us more pictures of his dune buggy and some of his
During the fall and winter, grilling season never ends, and Gessler Propane is your local supplier. Then make sure you get your hard-earned money's worth. Why go to gas exchanges to pay higher prices for tanks not filled to capacity? Gessler Propane makes sure you're prepared for year-round grilling with 100% filled tanks at a reasonable cost. See Bob Monday through Friday, 10 to 4, and Saturday, 9 to 3 at Gessler Propane, 702 Youngstown Poland Road, Struthers, or call 330-755-9119. Gessler Propane. They got gas.
So why do teenagers play high school sports?
My reason why is a sense of purpose.
My reason why is to inspire others.
One reason student athletes seldom mention is to get an athletic scholarship. They know that only 2% of all high school athletes are awarded a sports scholarship. So why do they play?
My reason why is friendship.
Tell us your reason using the hashtag #MyReasonWhy.
This message presented by the NFHS and the Ohio High School Athletic Association.
This is Everett Fitzhugh, the radio voice of the NHL Seattle Kraken, and you're listening to the home of the Youngstown Phantoms, Western Reserve Radio.
You're going on a trip, but where are you going to stay? How much will it cost? Well, it'll cost less by booking on besthotelrates.com. BestHotelRates.com works with all the top hotels in the country while delivering you great hotel and room choices for the best prices. Why wait? Go to BestHotelRates.com, enter your email address, and start shopping for your next hotel room. BestHotelRates.com, it's in the name. BestHotelRates.com.
Ask Sherwin-Williams during the spring sale, March 24th through April 3rd, and get 35% off paints and stains with prices starting at $28.92. That means 35% off our most popular color family, blue. Psychologists have found it to be soothing and relaxing, which makes it especially great for bedrooms and bathrooms. And of course, 35% off all of our other colors. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Wake up call!
Oh, I love LeVar Ball.
He gave some unsolicited advice to Bronny James. He thinks Bronny should skip college and play international. That's what his son did, and it worked out great for him. So Bronny should do the same thing. He should forego college, skip out on all those millions of dollars he's going to get through NIL.
Right, go to Australia.
And go to Australia to play for a couple $100,000.
Now, who's in Australia? LeAngelo? Is that who it is? LeAngelo Ball?
Is that maybe?
So there's there's Lamar.
No, there's Lonzo,
LaMelo, and LeAngelo.
Yeah, I think LeAngelo's
in Australia.
In Australia.
Because LaMelo is in Charlotte. No, in the Bulls. Which one's? God, Lee, I can't keep the Can't keep the Ball family together.
Can't keep your balls straight?
God, I can't. They're all bunched up and hard to separate.
Wake Up Call with Tony V and Ron Culver. Weekday mornings from 9 to noon Eastern.
Sports Kings with Mean Gene.
Joker puts up damn near a triple-double night in, night out. And the guy who has played with a team that had two major injuries with Porter and Jamal Murray, and he's still carrying the team. MVP is supposed to be the guy that if he was not there, you wouldn't be winning. The Joker is that guy, and I think he's going to win another MVP.
Sports Kings, weekday afternoons from 4 to 6 Eastern. First Name Sports with Greg Frank.
What we should do is celebrate Fairleigh Dickinson and not tear down Purdue. Here's what happened on Friday night. The Fairleigh Dickinson kids began to believe. And then when the reality started to set in that all of America watches, says, wait a second, they can win. Then it felt like Purdue really started to feel it. College kids, I don't care what your seed is. I don't care what the name on the front of the jersey is. This can happen. The tournament can get you. It got Purdue. This is all my way of saying celebrate FDU, do not tear down Purdue. So I'll go to bat for Matt Painter and Purdue here because all they do is win the Big Ten regular season title seemingly every year. And the people that want to call for his head and that want him fired, that's crazy talk to me. I understand that this is where the stakes rise, but that does not invalidate what he has built in West Lafayette and what they've done from November until February. If anything, this makes me really pull for Matt Painter and Purdue next season.
First Name Sports, weekday afternoons from 2 to 4 Eastern. Imagine learning about radio and being mentored by true radio professionals in real radio stations. Well, actually, you don't have to imagine because there's Radio Connection. Radio Connection gives you the opportunity to learn one-on-one and be mentored by radio pros. Plus, you don't have to worry about getting into a crazy amount of debt with school tuition either. Radio Connection keeps their tuition at much lower costs. To find out more info, visit radioconnection.com.
You're listening to WRDB, Western Reserve Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, Warren, Salem, and around the world.
Golf in the Mahoning Valley starts at Mill Creek Golf Course. Mill Creek Golf Course is the host venue for the AJGA PGA Hope Program, 8 high school teams, and 2 collegiate teams. Mill Creek Golf Course is your Callaway certified golf club fitting facility. It was named the PGA of America's National Merchandiser of the Year for a public facility 2022. Book your tee time at 330-740-7112 or online at millcreekmetroparks.org.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Located in Applewood Estates in Boardman Township, the Applewood Swim and Tennis Club offers a pleasant family environment. Choose a membership that meets your needs and enjoy a relaxing venue that includes not only swimming for the family, but also youth activities such as competitive swimming, tennis, and more. Enjoy the friendly atmosphere all summer long with the staff and members of the Applewood Swim and Tennis Club. For more information, go to applewoodswimandtennis.com or call 330-953-2833.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
It's time to kick back and listen to the sports page with your host, Pat Lucia, right here on Western Reserve Radio. You can call the show at 330-707-4202 and tell everyone what's on your mind in the wonderful world of sports. Now, here's your host, Pat Lucia.
Saturday morning sports page. Pat Lucia, Dave Clark.
330-707-4202 to get in and talk sports. We do it here, the Gessler Propane Studio in Struthers, Ohio, and it is Western Reserve Radio, Dave Clark. Wonder if Gessler's going to bring his dog today. We need to get riled up here. Get set for the Final Four.
Yep.
Big game, though, last night in women's Final Four. Boy, they were two good basketball games. Iowa upsetting South Carolina, man. South Carolina's got really, like, the women are tall. They are, like, really, it's almost kind of like a shorter NBA team.
Yeah, no.
The women coming off the bench for that South Carolina are tall women. I mean, they're like got to be 6'6", 6'7", they are. And, Iowa, that Caitlin Clark is a junior. I don't know if she will come back for her senior year.
Yeah, I think they don't have that right to like just go to the NBA.
Oh, they can't go. So she would go.
Not the NBA,
WNBA.
Yeah, she has to come back for her senior year.
Well, she could sign an NIL deal, and she'll be all right.
If she hasn't already.
She probably has. Hopefully she has.
Yeah, they probably have.
I'm sure she has. For the record, and I didn't realize she was as tall. She is 6 foot, and 155 is what the program says. And I just thought she was shorter, but she is put in 41 points last night, leading Iowa to an upset win over South Carolina, 77-73. South Carolina was undefeated going into the game. So Iowa will advance, and they will play LSU, who upset Virginia Tech because Virginia Tech was a 1 seed. LSU was a 3 seed.
Yep.
So we had 2 upsets in their Final Four. So then we'll be looking at this Final Four, tonight's Final Four. South Florida will take on San Diego State. That's game 1. I think they tip off at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then Miami and UConn, I think, tip off like 9 o'clock right after that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was 6:09 was the first. And then obviously the UConn Miami game will be the one that follows that. That's the night game.
Right.
And not everybody, but it looks like UConn is the favored to win the tournament. At least that's what experts believe. But don't rule out those Miami Hurricanes and Jim Larranaga, the head coach for Miami, because Miami was looking like they were going to go down and out last week to Texas. And that didn't happen. They came back after they were down like 12 points.
Yeah.
8 minutes, something left. And all of a sudden, it's like.
Yeah, like a switch went on.
They hit a switch, and whatever Larranaga said or didn't say to the players, I was stunned. I was like, wow, here comes. And they came right back and pulled that game out, Miami. And they may be the team that, don't rule them out. Because everything you have them down and out, they come back. But you have UConn, who seems to be, they blew out Gonzaga. So where we stay, looks like UConn is playing the best game. But, don't rule out any of these teams. Like South Florida, Florida Atlantic. Don't rule them out either. I mean, and San Diego State, what a crazy Final Four.
Yeah. Well, I like it.
And I love it. I love it.
You've never seen those teams in it.
I wish this every year.
Yeah, because, you got 3 teams that you would not see. Come on, South Florida.
I love this.
You going to see them in this?
I love South Florida. I love San Diego State.
Yeah, they play hard.
They play hard. I love Miami. I think Larranaga's done a great job with that team. Yeah. I want pure, unadulterated chaos. Yeah. I love it.
That one was.
And this is a great year is because it's wide open. And even watching that NIT the other night, North Texas is a good team.
Yeah.
And UAB is a good team. And I think they have close to 30 wins. I don't think there's a big difference in any of these teams. I watch them play.
That's what you got. You wanted chaos. You got it in both tournaments.
Both women
and men. We'll see what happened today. But, really, the only upset that would be, to me, is if Miami could beat Connecticut.
Yeah.
Because the other ones who knew what was going to happen. So whatever happens in there just happens. But, man, this is unbelievable. And I was looking up this at the monitor. One of my favorite coaches, Kim Mulkey, for LSU.
Right, LSU.
Yeah, so I remember seeing her all the way back when she played my college in the Elite Eight.
Cheney State.
They played them, but they Cheney State beat them and went all the way to the finals.
Who did she play for? Baylor?
Louisiana Tech.
She played for Louisiana Tech. Okay.
Yeah, and
That's
she was
what
a point
coached
guard.
Baylor.
She was something. But yep, and that's the year USC beat Cheney State in the final.
Was that Cheryl Miller?
Yep.
USC.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's something just to see them there, and then now this Final Four. I'm looking forward to today, the men's. I mean,
yeah,
I didn't watch all the tournament. I mean, bits and pieces here and there. I was so busy, but these last few through the Sweet 16, Elite 8, it's been great, and it's just been upset after upset. Teams going down that we thought would be there. So to see this today, where you got all these teams. And I don't know. Connecticut is what? What seed are they? They weren't a 1 seed, were they?
No, I believe Connecticut
three or four?
was a 6.
6? Now, so
I have to look that up.
So technically, we look at Miami not upsetting them, but all these teams,
see if I'm right or wrong,
were not expected to be where they are. 4.
Here's the seeds. Miami's a 5. Connecticut's a 4. FAU, Florida Atlantic, is a 9. San Diego State is a 5.
I love it.
No number 1 seeds. There were no number 1 seeds in the Elite 8, first time in history. And so there are obviously none, and this is the Final Four. But wouldn't it be great I think it would be great if like Florida Atlantic won it all. Wouldn't that be great? Yeah. Florida Atlantic wins it all. They are 35-3. They have won the most games of all these teams of the 4. San Diego State's 31-6, Miami's 29-7, and Connecticut's 29-8. That's what you have as far as these teams go. But when you really break this down, this to me, I think Connecticut is playing the best, but
yeah,
we have seen time and time again where a team in a close game will go on a drought like it did to Alabama.
Yeah.
Happened to them, and all of a sudden,
yeah,
they looked like they were cruising in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, they couldn't hit a basket, and it was with San Diego State.
Yep.
Just
I remember
plugged away, turned that game around, and went
just like that,
and won going away.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that game clear because I didn't see the first part. Well, not couple minutes,
right?
But then Alabama was just dominating. It was doing great,
right?
And something made me intrigued just to keep watching. I kept watching, and I was gonna just go do something else. I kept watching. Then all of a sudden, it just seemed they couldn't hit nothing. The defense of San Diego ramped up, rebounding, offense, everything. And they took over and never relinquished after that. They just took over the game. Unbelievable. And now they're here, Final Four.
Final Four. Brian Dutcher is coach of San Diego State. For those that, if it rings a bell for us, his father, Jim Dutcher, coached at Minnesota. Jim Dutcher coached Michael Thompson, who ultimately was drafted by Portland and played for the Lakers and won a few titles under his belt. So there's your, and then obviously if you start following the lineage, Michael Thompson, his son, plays for the Golden State Warriors. So you've got the lid, and then Brian Dutcher is the son of Jim Dutcher, who is was the coach of Minnesota, and Brian is now the coach. I believe he's 63 years old. He's been around.
Right.
A lot of college, this isn't like he's not some young guy. No, he's been around the coaching ranks for many, many years.
Right.
So he's done a great job at San Diego State. Larinaga, I believe, is 72 or 73.
Yeah.
He's
been a lot of energy.
Larinaga is just an unbelievable job here. And he is 73 years old. For those, he got George Mason to the Final Four way back when. And that was it 05 that he was able to pull them to get them. Did he get them to the Final Four? 06. He got George Mason to the Final Four in 06. So he's been around the block many, many, many years of coaching, Larranaga. So when you break these guys down, some of these coaches have been around.
Yeah.
And then Hurley coaching Connecticut, he started, I believe he was at Wagner, and he's worked his way into the UConn job. Danny Hurley's done an absolutely, the brother of Bobby Hurley, who played for Duke and then into the NBA before his career was cut short from an auto accident that he did survive, but it was, it pretty much, he tried to come back from that and then ultimately ended up in coaching. He coaches out in Arizona State. So when you break these teams down, it's just interesting how these coaches, Larranaga, an older guy at 73 coaching, there was the Hurricanes, and they really loved playing for him. You could see, and he doesn't do a lot of yelling and screaming on the sidelines. He just kind of stands there and talks to the ref and calls them over and says, he talks to the players.
Yeah. Yeah, real calm demeanor.
Yeah, calm demeanor, laid back type of guy.
Now, some of that comes off when they play, because when they're in a tight situation, I don't see them all frazzled, nothing. They just stay. And that's playing what you learning from your coach just by watching him. Being in a stressful situation, he's still laid back and still under control, and that's how they've been playing. So they're going to need it today, this Final Four, against Connecticut, so we'll see. But it's been very interesting. Very interesting.
One thing that was interesting in last night's game with Iowa and South Carolina, Iowa did not miss a free throw last night. They were 14 for 14.
Yeah.
And one thing I wanted before I forget, Dusty May is the other head coach. He's the Florida Atlantic head coach. So I didn't know. I think he's only 46, so he's young.
Right.
But here's the point. I need to kind of stay focused here a little bit because it's too easy to jump around. Like probably I'm a little ADD there. Maybe I blame it on my tablet. Getting back at least to last night's game a little bit, which I thought was really one of the best. Both those games last night were great games.
Yeah.
LSU and Virginia Tech were really back and forth, and then LSU kind of won it at the end. And that game, the late game, this Iowa-South Carolina game was just, that was glued to, that was great TV because that was a fantastic matchup, because I think I kept expecting South Carolina to kind of put it away, like, okay, they're the team, that's the number one team, they're going to put this team away. And Iowa, who's 31-6, would not just, they kept the lead and they would not relinquish that lead. And then South Carolina would get up a point or two, and then Iowa would get the lead back, and they kind of maintained, but it was only like a 1 or 2.3 points.
Yeah.
There was not a real variance, but you kept expecting South Carolina to come back and win that game.
Yeah. Well, I expected that early. As it went deeper into the second half, I said, I don't know about this, because still Iowa's consistent with their give and goes.
Yeah.
They was doing that early.
Pick and
They was
roll,
they was really doing
very
a great
good
job. And then they were still consistently hitting outside shots at big moments. So when I seen that wasn't faltering, I said they're going to have a tough time stopping them unless they can go inside. And they played a what is called a boxing one, where someone was, if it was on Boston, whoever the big person was, but especially Boston, they didn't want her to be a factor. So they have a defender on her. And then as soon as the ball even think about going in, they collapsed that box and won. And now she had nowhere to do but just get it back out. They don't have as many good shooters from the outside. The one that they had to get on is, what is her name? Cole.
Right.
Number one, the point guard, she's fantastic. She could do all kinds of things, but all around, not enough shooting from the outside. So I felt that they could stick in there, and
You're saying that South Carolina doesn't have the shooting.
Yeah, didn't have the shooting all the way around. So they able to collapse on the defense, not allow that inside game. Because if you let South Carolina get it, you're done.
Yeah,
it will just dominate and kill you. But they didn't allow that to happen, and it was a good strategy. What's her name? Blunders is the coach. She did a great job of keeping not. She switched up a little bit, but she stayed with that. That was her dominating defense, and it did. It was able to neutralize the inside game to a certain extent, and they were able to pull this off. Now it's going to be more interesting against LSU because LSU seems to have all kinds of stuff, inside, outside. You don't know who's going to be the scoring leader. You don't know. So this game should be very interesting because Iowa can score with different people also, besides Caitlin Clark. So this is going to be interesting on Sunday.
This is going to be that will be the Sunday game.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be a great game, LSU and Iowa, because I think you've got two teams. Like I said, Mulkey is the coach of LSU, and this is the second team she's got to the Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
And then the blunder for the Iowa, I'm sure that's how she will obviously. This is the second time Iowa got to the Final Four. Last time was 1993. They lost to Ohio State, I believe, in overtime. So this is 30 years since they've been in the Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
But they have probably the best player in the game right now in college basketball, women's college basketball, is Caitlin Clark.
Right.
And one thing I have to give her credit is, well, a lot of credit goes around. Her game is unbelievable. But what I thought when that game was on the line and they were up by 2, and there was 15 seconds left, they foul her.
Mm-hmm.
So she basically, had to make 2 free throws to make it 4 points.
Right.
And man, she didn't even, I don't think those free throws hit the rim. They hit net,
mm-hmm.
And she never, ever it never phased her. And then later on, right at the end of the game, same case scenario, she had to hit 2 free throws, which would have iced the game. And she did it right to the line. Yep. And they were 2 shots. And I said, boy, you talk about ice water in the veins.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I haven't seen somebody dominate like that in a long time. And since probably Cheryl Swoops, who, oh, my God, I think she even got the record for the most points in the tournament because she would miss from anywhere. I don't care where it
Cheryl
was.
Swoops was unbelievable, man.
I mean, she just would. I mean, I haven't seen a dominating performance of being able to score, also getting your teammates involved. Those are the 2 best performers I've ever seen in a long time. I've done seen other great individual performances. To Rossi at one time, I've seen Cheryl Miller, but they had to carry their team completely. And not that these players didn't, but they got the other players so much involved that you had other big players that did things. And that's what I seen from Swoops and what I seen last night in Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, Lisa Blunder is Bulder, is the head coach for the Iowa Hawkeyes, and she's got this team in the finals. The 41 points last night by Caitlin Clark is a record, NCAA Final Four record.
Yep.
By a player, most points scored. So Caitlin Clark has got everybody's attention on a Friday night when you're, not much on TV as far as other stuff. But that game was definitely a must-watch TV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And has got everybody's attention. So we'll see how she does tomorrow night. Tonight we have the men's Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
So
I used to think it, but I understand you want each individual, the women's college, to be separate from the men's. But wouldn't it be nice to have both finals on the same day at the same arena? The first game, the women's
roll the women and then roll the men.
Man,
yeah, maybe that's what you're right.
Wow.
Maybe they could do the women at 7 and the men at 9.
Yeah, it'll be packed out.
That place last night was sold out in Dallas.
Yeah.
That was 19,000 whatever. It was sold out.
Right.
So that was a full house last night.
Yeah.
Watching the women's Final Four.
They draw just
they
as much.
Draw.
And so when you think about it, they probably couldn't, because the whole thing. Let's forget all about the players.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the main running of things, money.
Yeah,
so they can make a lot more money with them being separate than they're
never,
the same.
Yeah, right. That's
when money's involved, it's not going to happen ever.
One comment I did want to make on last week's show. I know we were taking out the NCAA out to the
I don't want to talk about them guys.
Would you? I did want to bring up just one item, and it was probably something that, for my, I don't know, slight oversight, it dawned on me I don't know why. You know what I was saying about how, why don't they put like a Grant Hill in, or why don't they put in a college coach in to be the president? And it dawned on me, like right here, like kind of hit me in the head. Then I saw that Charlie Baker, well, he was a governor of Massachusetts for 8 years. He's a politician. He's going to go to the federal government, use his political connections here, and clout or whatever they do.
Yeah.
And he's going to try to get some law passed, because he said it. They want to get a federal law passed limiting NIL. They don't really want to get a person in there that has a concept of real life, what's going on, and you're not going after college coaches for giving a kid a ham sandwich with mustard on it.
Right.
You can't have mustard. Or you can have a bagel, but no lox. So that's a plain bagel is legal, but if you put lox, that's an extra benefit.
Yeah.
Plain bagels are okay, according to the NCAA.
That
was a rule. That's actually true.
French mustard is out.
But French mustard is out. No mustard. Even though on a Steinbrenner episode, George Steinbrenner talks about how he likes that fancy mustard.
Yeah.
He did.
No more of that.
No more of that. No fancy mustard.
Oh, my God.
But they're basically looking, they don't want a basketball person in there. They want a politician in there because that's their avenue. The NCAA will never, they'll always try to get that. They want to get that control back.
Right.
And they're going to try. So that was their motivation of putting a 65-year-old Charlie Baker in, because he's a politician and he's got connections.
Right.
So that's what so stay tuned here.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, if it really, the presidents of these Power Fives, if they really got together and said, you know what, forget the NCAA,
right,
let's start our own thing, they can. They can.
I think we're going to go. I think that's going to happen. I really think you're going to see a Power Five play here, where you're going to see them get away and break away from the NCAA and get away from all this stupid. They're still going after Harbaugh for a hamburger. So,
yeah,
I mean, I know we laugh about it, but this is how many years where, they went after all these coaches in the past for crazy stuff like that.
Yep. Well, I seen people on team, and it was shocking. It was Ohio State fans who are upset about that situation, as you said. And this is just people that's looking at it as not Ohio State against Michigan.
No.
But just looking at it as a realistic. Why would you do that for giving somebody a hamburger?
Right.
Bought him a hamburger. And we're not kidding. It was just a hamburger.
They're investigating him. And he won't cooperate. He's getting in trouble because he won't.
Glad he won't.
Because of course he's thinking he's probably thinking in his mind, like, are you kidding me?
Right.
You're going to bring me in here. I'm going to pay and how much money to pay to fly me here, and how much you're going to spend because I gave a kid a hamburger. But we talked about the situation 30 years ago where Ohio State got in trouble with recruiting Damon Flint from Cincinnati because he got a meal, off-campus meal, and a gym bag.
Yeah.
And Ohio State could not recruit him. They were banned from recruiting Damon Flint because of a gym bag and an off-campus meal.
I mean, come on.
So there you go. So again,
are you kidding? I mean, just wasting taxpayers' money
you're
over some
right.
dumb stuff.
Over a hamburger and a gym bag. I gave him a free gym bag.
I just don't get it.
I get nothing. But getting back to the basketball.
Yes.
Let's get back to that. We don't. Yeah. They're like kick the can on this show.
Oh my God.
Let's take them out to the woodshed and beat up the NCAA. But women's basketball was fantastic last night. Caitlin Clark is a fantastic player.
Mm-hmm.
Set the NCAA record for most points in a Final Four, and she is just an unbelievable player. And it was a great teams, great sportsmanship and everything. Good game. And I thought the referees as a rule, did a good job in refereeing the game. They let the women play, which I liked. They didn't call a lot of ticky-tack fouls. There was a lot of physicality, and that's good. I would rather them let them play than call whistle after whistle, because you can get, I saw a lot of plays that they could have blown. They let it go. A lot of with rebounding, with South Carolina dominating the boards as they did because of their size, just unbelievable. But they let the women play, which I thought was a good thing.
Well, and it's better. You want to allow the players to decide the game.
No,
I hate when we get to these the refs and nothing against refs, but you don't want them to have to decide the game.
The game, I guess, listening to Mad Dog Russo this week, what really got him going was the game when it was it was South Florida, where they called the foul. The grab foul, and he was upset because he thought with the game being tied, you should not have called that. It wasn't really an egregious foul. Right. We'll talk more about that after the break. Yep. Here's our music. Saturday Morning Sports Page, Pat Lucia, Dave Clark. We'll come right back after this timeout on Western Reserve Radio.
Golf in the Mahoning Valley starts at Mill Creek Golf Course. Come out to the 36 beautiful hole design course by Donald Ross, and golf lessons are available by calling the team shop at 330-740-7112. Don't forget about family fun nights on Friday and Saturday evenings, a family of 4 with cart for only $25. Or visit the Wick Recreation Area and the lighted Par 3 course. Book your tee time today at 330-740-7112 or online at millcreekmetroparks.org.
Golf in the Mahoning Valley starts at Mill Creek Golf Course. Mill Creek Golf Course is the host venue for the AJGA PGA Hope Program, 8 high school teams, and 2 collegiate teams. Mill Creek Golf Course is your Callaway certified golf club fitting facility. It was named the PGA of America's National Merchandiser of the Year for a public facility 2022. Book your tee time at 330-740-7112 or online at millcreekmetroparks.org.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all gotta see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
Let's be real. The odds of a high school athlete getting a college scholarship and making it to the pros are pretty slim. Don't get me wrong. It's okay to dream of becoming a pro athlete, even a famous one. But that's not why I play. My reason why? I love the competition.
My reason why is community.
My reason why is leadership.
My reason why is to challenge myself.
My reason why is love for the game.
And hey, if we don't make it to the pros or onto the cover of Sports Illustrated, that's okay, because there's every reason to believe we'll excel in something even bigger than sports. We'll excel in life.
There are lots of great reasons to play high school sports. Tell us your reason using the hashtag #MyReasonWhy.
This message presented by the NFHS and the Ohio High School Athletic Association.
Saturday morning sports page, Pat Lucia, Dave Clark. 330-707-4202. Get in and talk sports. We do it every Saturday morning here on Western Reserve Radio. Second quarter of the show. The game we were referring to was Sunday. It was the Creighton-San Diego State game, where they called Creighton for pretty much a touch foul with the second left and change. And it basically gave San Diego State two free throws with a second or two left in the game, giving them the game.
Right.
San Diego State made one of the two and wins the game 57-56. And when you look at the foul they call, technically by the letter of the law it was, but they were letting that go the whole game. And we've talked about this it was like Super Bowl 2.0. It's something you let go the entire game. That particular case, I know it's a letter law foul, but you swallow the whistle. That game realistically should have gone into overtime. It was a close game all day. I mean, there was great teams going at it. Good game to watch, but don't let the referee decide the thing on a whistle like that.
Right.
I mean, it's one thing if he grabbed the guy and almost grabbed him and held him, that's different. But you could see he just caught the hip with his hand, and the player said, I should have made the shot. And here's the other thing, is if they don't call that foul and say they go into overtime and San Diego State loses the game, I would guarantee you nobody in San Diego State would have come out and said, yeah, they should have called that foul at the end. Yeah. I mean, they know that it was that was kind of a gift.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's I just hate seeing stuff like that. Puts a bad taste in your mouth for a long time. And you be a fan of a team, and I'm one that experienced, but I hate seeing it for anybody. I don't like that. When I want to watch a game, I want to see it where the players decide it. Now, egregious one, I get it. But something that is ticky-tack and you have not been calling that, and then all of a sudden at the end you want to be the hero, I don't like that at all. At all. And I done been part of, as a fan of a team, I done been part of some of the most egregious things ever. That one was a mess, but I'll never get over the tuck rule ever.
Yeah, the tuck rule.
Because I never heard of the tuck rule. No. In all my years of watching football, all years, I've never seen it ever. And we done watch some football. We going to the 60s. Never heard of a tuck rule until Tom Brady all of a sudden allegedly tucked the ball back in. So that
was a fumble.
Yeah, it's no it's no question.
No, that was a gift.
And Brady, and I'll never take away from his talents. He's been great, but he has gotten away with so many things over the year. That's why people don't like him. It's not just him, but there's too much they give to him. Even in the game this year, Pat, against was it Atlanta Falcons?
Yeah, he got a break on that.
Yeah.
On the roughing.
Yeah, come on, man.
That was the game. I mean, they won that game because of that play. And I guess the NFL's not going to review roughing the passer, so we'll continue. We'll
continue to deal with it.
We're going to continue to deal with this.
And think about our quarterbacks that we have loved over the years. They never said anything about a player that's a defensive lineman that's knocked to the ground, crawls his way to the quarterback and tackles him. Now they do that and stay low. They can get a penalty for that.
Because
when did that happen? When Tom Brady blew out his knee early in the season. You remember that?
Yep.
When a guy crawled and hit him low.
And he blew out had the ACL or whatever.
Had the ACL, and then that rule got changed. That's unbelievable. Sad that it's got to be attached to Tom Brady like that.
Well,
he had to live with it, but it's true though. It's what happened.
Yeah, we're gonna get.
I hate it. The politics of sports.
Well, the NFL is going to do what they have to do to protect the quarterbacks. So, and with what the quarterbacks are getting paid,
yeah, they want to keep them on the field.
They got to keep them on the field, and they're getting paid a lot of money.
But some of it is just 300-something-pound defensive linemen running at you full speed,
right? And they can't
midair.
Stop, and that's the problem we've seen.
I want to see that happen
time and time again, where the players coming at the quarterback, we've seen it, and he's up in the air trying to, and actually you'll see like it was Chris Jones for Kansas City got a roughing that he actually gets the Raiders, that when you saw the play, he actually was holding back.
He could have killed.
He could, and he didn't like level. He was like, he had to hit him, but you could see him as he was going toward the quarterback car. He was like trying to soften the blow.
Yeah, take his weight away
from it.
Yeah.
And he kind of glanced, he hit him, but you could see he didn't hit him full bore, and he still got the flag. And I think
I didn't like that.
That's the plays that drive fans nuts with this whole roughing the passer, because now the NFL won't review those. And I guess when I think about it, if they take the approach of the year they reviewed the pass interference, which was a joke, because that year they were going, we're going to review the pass interference because of what happened with the New Orleans Saints and the Rams. So they said because people were screaming and yelling, deservedly so. And they go, we're going to review that. Well, then they got to the point where they would never, it was a joke reviewing it because they were never changing it.
Right.
It was almost like when you scold the child for doing something, and then the child's going to say, okay, I'm not going to, I'm not changing. I'm going to continue to do it my way because I'm not going to do what you told me to do. That's what it reminded me of. It reminded me of like a child, an 8-year-old kid saying, well, you could tell me, what to do or not. I'm not doing it. Right. And I could go sit in my room, but I'm still not going to, I'm still not going to eat my peas. I'm not going to eat, you could give me peas. I'm not eating them.
Right.
So you could put peas on my plate all day. I'm not going to eat those.
Right.
So, you could sit there and scold your 8-year-old kid. And that was like the referees were taking the approach. Well, okay, if you're going to make me review these, I'm not changing them.
Right.
And even they were egregious ones that they should have changed, they wouldn't change.
Yeah.
And that just infuriated fans that much more.
Yeah. That's, that's the one thing I love sports. That's the one thing I hate about it, that, if you're going to have replay, then use it to the best extent that you can to get things right. But if you're going to get in there and start, just forget it. Might as well just go back to the old days. No replay.
And don't replay it.
Whatever happens, this happens. Whatever they call. You hate that, but you still get it. Because it's more aggravating when you do have the system. You see it on the replay, and they still don't call it. That's even worse.
Well, that's the word. Yeah, that's the hard part sometimes with replay, is the frustration level is it seems like it sometimes takes them way too long.
Yeah.
But what makes it worse is, or you see they had it right, and they reverse it and make it wrong. And that's happened with replay when the call was right, but they keep reviewing it, then they change it. And they've actually had that happen where they had the call right, but changed it. Now it's the incorrect call.
Right.
So there's been instances where they have changed correct calls and made them incorrect.
It's just like the ego of the NFL is something, because they won't take from the smaller leagues, our XFL, USFL, with the interventions they have on, doing things with the referees and the replay. They're quicker about it. They got solutions for certain things. Even people love the kickoff. They find a way to keep that in the game because it's an exciting play. But the NFL, oh no, we're not. So what are the kickers? What are they useful for? If the way the NFL is getting, I mean, you kick off. I don't even know why they kick off. They should just have each team take the ball at just the 25 or 30.
20.
Yeah, and just start from there, because they kick off. All we see is the ball go out, goes into the end zone, and they start. And now you see that they say, well, they already been doing it. They can fair catch it at the 5 or where, as long as it's in the field of play, and then still get it out there. What? That's not football that I grew up on. You going down full bore. You better get on the football, or I can get it down there. That would keep it exciting, where they could pop that thing up and get a chance to go down. Yeah, but no, we're gonna. They're worrying about the collisions of what's going on. Well, we know everybody are bigger, faster, and everything, but that's just, if you're going to play football, let's play football. if you're gonna play this
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean, I think sometimes they go out of their way to try. I know they want to protect the player.
Are we gonna have flag football instead of contact soon?
But I think the rule of thumb is when kids play football, there's an assumption of risk that there's injuries involved, and it is a collision sport.
Right.
And the problem, I think, and we were talking a little bit about this earlier, or it was a few weeks ago, is the problem, I think, what makes football injuries seem more severe is the kids, the players, are bigger, stronger, and faster. Their bones and tendons are not bigger and stronger. They're still bones for a normal person, if I could kind of say it that way. But the point is their muscles are giant and strong. So their bones and tendons are giving away more so because the hits are harder, because their bodies are stronger and faster, but their bones and tendons are not.
Right.
So when you have that kind of collision with the big bodies, you're going to have bones break and tendons pull or tendons strained or whatever. Where back in the day when the players weren't nearly as big and strong, that, you're not getting the impacts as severe, and the game still played the same.
Right.
It's just that the players aren't as big as strong and not colliding as hard.
Right.
The other thing too is, I think that this was coming up is, we were saying earlier about our manager here. He was saying that he manages his son's hockey, and he says that the kids go from hockey to lacrosse back to hockey, but he says the kids are getting shin splints. They're not resting. They're playing like they go from one sport to the other. And I think that's what you're seeing is these guys train in the regular season. So they're never giving their bodies a break.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's where you're seeing some injuries occur because there's no downtime. We're back in the day. A lot of the players took the time off and took a month off or took 2 months off and just, kept they weren't training intensely and they gave their bodies that needed rest. Where now you're getting into a situation where you're seeing it a lot with kids in high school and where they go from one sport to another, and ultimately they're having injuries that they didn't have years ago is because, and it seems like the seasons are longer. Like college basketball is longer. Look at all the games they play now versus they did 10, 20 years ago. They weren't playing nearly as many games.
In the 20s,
Right, now you're playing close to 40 games. Where they played, I think, when Bobby Knight won the title in 1976, I think Indiana's record, and that was
it 32? No,
was it 31 or 30? I'm going to look it up.
30,
was it 30? Maybe 30. It could have been. I think it was probably 32-0. You're right. You called it 32-0. That was their record the year that they won the national title, the last undefeated team to do so in 76. They played 32 games. Now they're playing closer to 40 games than they are the 32. So they're playing 8-9 more games now than they did 30, 40 years ago.
Right. Yep. And then you figure the preseason games.
And then they have preseason workout. And a lot of these kids are not taking the summers off, but working. They're training. So again, you're getting into these injuries and they just seem to linger more. And they're getting more injuries while in season that they did years ago.
Right. Yep. I mean, you see it at all levels. I even watch it with my kids. They play year round all the time. They play in every sport, especially in high school. Every sport.
Right, they're in every sport.
She's never off, ever.
No.
And and then you combine other things you do like cheerleading and everything else.
You throw all the other things in. Right.
It's got to take a toll on their body.
Right. I mean, there's a happy medium somewhere.
Yep. They have to rest.
I mean, you want kids to rest. Now, granted, you have the couch potatoes, kids that never get off and play with their whatever all day. That's one severe. But then you have the kids, but they're playing sports to the almost nth degree. You want to kind of bring, nice to get the kids off the couch and play sports, but it's like the ones that are playing sports, give them a little time off just to,
something.
Take take a spring off or take a section of the
I don't even
year
know if they
off.
know how today. They're just constant.
Right.
It's constant.
It's constant.
Yep.
So that's kind of what you have going on. But I think that goes back to the injuries, and you see these players getting back to football where you have these injuries, and a lot of it is either the training or it's the size of the team and the players. And then obviously it goes back to the quarterbacks and how the NFL wants to go out of their way to keep the quarterback on the field. So the D-line can't even breathe on the quarterback without getting a roughing the passer call, it seems, or brushing the quarterback. And here comes the flag.
Yep.
And if he touches the helmet, that's a hit to the head. That's 15. And all they did is just touch the helmet. They didn't grab it, slam it. They just got their hand up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and then they're not going to say it is the NFL's not going to review anything. So we're just going to have to tolerate. Oh, and the other thing, too, is now they're talking about flexing the Thursday night games. But right now, the NFL, they don't have enough teams to approve it. And the Giants owner, Wellington Mara, is against it, dead set against it. So they need, I think, 24 teams to pass it. And I think they said there's 8 against it, 22 for it, and 2 on the proverbial fence.
Right.
So the key is get those 2 on the fence to approve it, and then they'll do flexing into the Thursday night game. They could flex teams into Thursday night.
Yeah.
So
the thing about it, and I think this got a lot to do with why we don't get great Thursday night games. When a team plays, they got to do something where the team doesn't play that Sunday previous, because when they play,
you could see
on Monday is normally a day off. The body has to.
The body needs that day off. Right?
So Tuesday they can't practice, so it's a walkthrough. Wednesday you're on a plane to wherever you're going to play, and you're just going to do another walkthrough. Now you look at film, but you don't get that action to know how to. So then on Thursday you play.
You're playing,
and you're not playing. Guys are not fully healthy to play again. So sometimes they play, sometimes they don't.
You're seeing a lot of backups play.
Yep, and even if you got the guys in your regular guys, they're not 100%.
You can
never 100%, but they're really below where they need to be. And so we don't get those great performances on Thursday, and that's why Thursday night football is not good. So
no, it's not.
No, when you look at the overall, we don't seen the games here and there, but I'm talking about overall scope. They have not been good. So I think when a team plays on Thursday, they have to be off or something on Sunday. But then what happens about the following Sunday? I mean, what do you do? They got to play then, so it's the same scenario.
The NFL's got to figure out, like you said, the teams playing Thursday night. I don't know. You either put them a bye week, but give them a bye week the week before it. They play Thursday, but then they really can't play. Yeah, they would play Thursday. Yeah, they could. I guess they
wouldn't play because that's part of the same week, right?
Same part week.
Yeah,
the week, so the Sunday before.
Be bye.
Maybe you add another week to the schedule,
so
you got 2 byes.
Right.
Then you could give everybody playing Thursday the bye on the Sunday before the Thursday.
Yep.
So they would have that time off, and then they would resume.
And you get better games.
You would get better games. So I can't see how Goodell can't figure this out, because you could do Thursday night, but don't let the players play that Sunday. They are on the bye week.
Yeah,
so all the bye teams that are on Sunday would play the Thursday. So get your schedule figured out. And if you have to add a week and give 2 bye weeks, which I think they should anyway, and people aren't going to complain because you're going to get another week of football. That's what people give. I mean, come on. That's what the world is.
Yeah.
The reality is our country's world surrounds around football. So they could do that, throw in another bye week and figure it out. Yeah. Or even have to give another bye week. I mean, people aren't going to sit and complain that, hey, the season, you give them, maybe if you give them a couple at least two buys or 3 buys, at least their body would not be, they would get that much needed rest
right
during the season.
I mean,
But you're
wanna
right.
see teams playing at their most capable ability.
Right.
Than they can. Sometimes when teams are banged up,
no, you
they
could
play
see
that
it.
game. It's not the
No.
same. That you see a lot of top echelon teams get beat on that Thursday
Oh,
or
yeah.
don't play well, and you be like, oh, they're not that good. No, they're not healthy. That's
Right.
why. The guys are not up to par to play at their optimum level.
Right, they're not.
So that's what you see. That's what kind of games you get. So, and Goodell could do it. I mean, he was. I hate to talk about Goodell, but I am for 1 second. If guys know it, watch enough of even the announcers or guys that do things, editors, and Jim Trotter, who's been a part of the NFL for the longest, got fired. He's the new contracts came out for today,
Right.
April 1st.
Okay.
The 31st was the end of the contracts. He got released from his contract, and they wanted to find out. What it was is that the meetings he asked on a live interview with our Goodell guy, why ain't there more push for minority owners and different things like that? And he couldn't get a straight answer from Goodell. He started stumbling. And he asked him again. He kept asking him, well, there should be something. It's a lot of guys over here that's, we didn't hear from the Giants owners, Pittsburgh, couple, and they really want to push for this. And why is not going forth? Next thing you know, he would not answer. They made them go to a commercial. If you read about the story,
I'm looking at it now.
And then a week or so later, he's done. He's done. They said, well, they're just letting him relieve him from his duties because they didn't have enough to renew his contract. Absolutely.
No, yeah, I'm looking at this now.
Come on, this guy been around for years, but because he asked him a hard question and wanted to know why Wellington Mayor, Rooney's, and I forgot they named a couple of them, was really pushing for this. They need to get this so we don't have a disparity. And he wouldn't answer it.
Oh, you mean the minority hiring?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
As
looks
far
like
as owners and
the
getting
owners.
people, because they had guys that wanted to come in and get the Commanders, and they said they didn't have something. I forgot. So they didn't allow.
Wanted to buy the Commanders.
They wanted to get, so they wouldn't let them.
Yeah, Jim Trotter feels questioning Roger Goodell led to his termination. I'm looking at this now.
Goodell.
No,
man,
that would never happen.
Roger,
yeah, right.
Roger, man. Roger, come on, man. Get these guys bye weeks. Do something. This stuff is it's comical.
You basically know that's why he's out. Oh yeah, I'm looking at yeah. You can't. You don't fool with Mother Nature here. You don't bust Roger Goodell's chops.
Come on, man.
No, he. Yeah.
And then instead of just going to a different question,
no,
he kept he kept hitting it.
Why? Oh, I bet he did. Yeah. Yeah.
And he didn't like that.
No, he did not.
Especially when you have him stumbling.
Yeah, especially when he had Roger backpedaling. I didn't see it, but if he had Roger and then he kept at it, and it really made Goodell look worse. And then
because he stumbled,
he kept stumbling around, and he can't give him a straight answer. Then Trotter didn't let up; he kept, pounding it. Yeah, of course.
Oh,
and now he goes. Now he says, "Yeah," because of his questioning of Roger Goodell. Now.
Yeah, he gets upset. I remember Jeremy Schaap had asked him a tough question back when he first was in the. And I have never seen Schaap ever interview Roger Goodell.
No, it's over. No.
Oh my goodness!
And Trotter went. Yeah, I could.
It's
see.
unbelievable.
Yeah, I could see. Sure. Yeah, you can't. Don't fool with Mother Nature. Don't fool with the power. Roger wants things his way. He doesn't want to answer anything.
Yeah.
No.
And if you got enough owners to tell him he better not, then he works for them. He's not going to do it.
Oh no, he's right. He takes the shield. He gets paid well. He gets a lot of money. But he's the shield. Roger is the shield for the owners. He takes he falls on a lot of swords, and he eats crow, and he has to tolerate.
Well, I think overall, a lot of owners don't like teams like the Giants, Pittsburgh, maybe even Baltimore, a couple of them, because they have a tendency to not go with the
flow
They don't. Of the old guard
no.
doing it a certain way. They know it's a change of time and it needs to be changed. And they'll speak up about it. And I think they don't say, you don't hear anything publicly said about them, but you could tell there's a difference.
Yep.
They're not crazy about those teams.
Yeah.
You know,
they're kind of they're interesting teams because they want to set a trend, but they're kind of closed up. They're buttoned up.
Right.
On the second, we're coming up on halftime, but second half of the show, we're going to get into the Lamar Jackson situation and get into the quarterbacks and what's going on there. But what Lamar was supposedly offered by the Ravens and what he evidently turned down. I didn't realize that this brought up that, that agents have a 3% cap of what they can take. That's it.
Yeah.
Like they can't take more than.
No, they used to be back in the day 10%.
Now it's 3.
Yeah, you can't.
So,
yeah.
I mean, I understand Lamar Jackson doesn't have an agent, but sometimes maybe he might be better off with one. You realize they can only get up, they cap it at 3%.
Right.
So they can't take more than 3% of what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll wait and see this because this Lamar Jackson thing is really getting off the rails, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where this is headed at all.
I don't know.
It is just
I hope somebody ends it some kind of way, even if it's a trade at the draft.
This
something.
has gone Twilight Zone-ish because this is just going off the rails here. And I don't know if he's going to be able to go back to Baltimore because it seems like, boy, the toothpaste is out of the tube, and I don't know if he can go back.
Yeah. Yep.
So
it's going to be rough for sure.
We got to chat about that and other news out there. It is halftime, Saturday Morning Sports Page. Pat Lucia, Dave Clark. We'll be right back after a quick timeout on Western Reserve Radio.
Youngstown, Warren, and Salem's local and national sports talk can be found on TuneIn and the Live 365 app at Western Reserve Radio. WRDB, The Scourge.
WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio, take 1.
Behold the angry giant.
Try it again, Alberto.
Behold the angry giant.
Perfect. Good luck tonight.
Behold the angry giant.
Yay! Read me another one, Dad.
This is WWE superstar Alberto Del Rio. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Hey, let me ask you something. Would you seat your 3-year-old child on a windowsill? Would you seat them beside a lit fireplace or by the deep end of a pool? One last question. Would you seat your child in a car seat that's not correct for them? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Secure their future. Seat them in the correct car seat. For more information, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Saturday Morning Sports Page coming right back at you, 330-707-4202. Get in and talk sports. on the Saturday morning sports page. I'm Pat Lucia, Dave Clark joining me this morning. We talked a lot. Women's basketball, great game last night. Recapping it, Iowa upsetting South Carolina. 77-73. Caitlin Clark, 41 points, proving that she's the best player in the country. And great game to watch. And the LSU game with Virginia Tech, LSU the 3 seed, Virginia Tech a 1 seed. Both number 1 seeds, and the women went down last night. So LSU will now play Iowa, and that will be Sunday. So getting ready for that game. But tonight is the men's Final Four.
Yep.
And the first game was the Florida Atlantic San Diego State game, followed by Miami and Connecticut. And right now, UConn is favored to win it all, but as we've seen in this tournament, that means nothing.
That's for sure.
That means absolutely nothing. I mean, UConn does look great, but Miami, I don't rule them out. When they're down, as they were down to Texas on Sunday, they came back, storming back after being down, 12 points, and pull that game out, which I think Texas is still a little stunned.
Is that happening?
I think the fans of Texas are definitely stunned, because I thought they figured we've got the Final Four here wrapped up. I certainly thought so. But Miami came back and pulled that out. So great games this weekend. Women will play tomorrow, men tonight, and then the men play Monday to decide it. The NBA, it remains the wild, wild west out in the NBA. We'll get to that. That's an absolute crapshoot. I have no idea where those teams, how those teams are going to map up. Although one thing, I don't know if it's a bad thing, if you're a Dallas Maverick fan, getting Kyrie Irving has not helped the team. In fact, since they've had Kyrie, they've played themselves out of the playoffs. So Kyrie really hasn't helped the team. The big question is going to be who will want to sign Kyrie to a long-term deal next year. Stay tuned, because that'll be, drama to say. He might not get a long-term deal from anybody. He might be getting 1 or 2 year, a 2-year deal, and that's going to be it. Kyrie doesn't seem to make the team better. He had one with LeBron, but since he left Cleveland, he went to Boston. He didn't make Boston better, and he certainly didn't make the Nets better. Now he's really not helping Dallas. That's the reality. Now there's people who are going to call me and say, well, there's other factors with Dallas, but the problem is Luka and Kyrie do not play defense.
Right.
And you've got to play some defense in the NBA. And I know people say, well, they really don't play defense compared to in the 60s, the 70s, and 80s. Yeah, maybe they don't, but they still play some. So you need to play some defense.
And
they're not playing any.
Yeah, if you watch enough playoff basketball, you'll see that they play defense then.
Yeah, everything amps up when you watch NBA. Dave and I, our age, we're close age group. We grew up watching NBA in the 60s, the 70s. You see NBA playoff basketball, they elevate it. The defense is tougher. The referees swallow the whistles. They're not calling the fouls. They let those guys go at it, and they bang bodies, and they grind, and they do play defense in the playoffs.
Right.
It is a different game, playoff game.
Yeah. And don't get us wrong that we're saying that back in the day they didn't play it like that. What's the difference is regular season games back in the day.
Well, they played
defense then.
Yeah.
It could have been the 15th game of the season. They were playing it like playoffs. Ask anybody that wanted to play the Bulls and had to deal with Sloan and Van Leer, they'll know how physical a basketball game was. You didn't want to play those two guys.
No, those two guys
you don't want to play them at the guard position.
They were just, they were tough. Van Leer and Jerry Sloan and Norm Van Leer and the old Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, you didn't want part of that.
Those guys are just...
I mean, I just think about guys back then, or somebody as small as, and nobody would mess with this guy, Calvin Murphy.
Oh, yeah.
One of the smallest guys in the league.
Nobody.
He'll get in a fight with centers, and they will back down.
No, they didn't want anything to do with
That's the thing. This guy was some kind of intimidator at 5'9".
He was, he was.
Yeah, and people might think we're joking.
No.
He used to intimidate Big men. They didn't want no part of Calvin Murphy. The guy
nobody wanted.
Was this?
He went
else.
to Niagara College. He went to Niagara University in upstate New York. Calvin
Murphy, tough guy, boy.
And Calvin Murphy was one mean dude. You're right. 5'9" and 165 of absolute terror.
And score at will.
And he would score and light it up. And he was one tough guy. Went to Niagara, graduated, and got out in 1970. Was a second-round pick by the San Diego Rockets, who then ultimately became the Houston Rockets in 1970 draft. And he was an unbelievable ball player. And then he became a coach. And he was a good coach. He was an assistant coach with the Rockets for many years.
Yep.
For about 4 years. But he was all over the league, and he was tough.
Yeah, tough guy.
Calvin Murphy was just
Yep.
Yeah, you're right. Nobody screwed with Calvin Murphy.
No, they just didn't.
But that was the old NBA.
Right.
You had all those guys. Van Leer was an unbelievable player, a defensive guy. But, Forrest taking charges and floor, and Jerry Sloan and him were just, teammates there at the In fact, there's talked about Norm Van Leer used to take care, Sloan said Norm Van Leer would babysit my kids. I needed somebody. He said, but outside of that court, Norm Van Leer was the nicest guy, great guy. And, he said that, but on that court,
it's a different guy.
He was tough.
Yep. That's just how it was back then.
Getting over to the Lamar Jackson saga. Okay. Now this is an old, this came out, it was a report. This is on March 14th. I know it's been a couple weeks, but there was a report that the Ravens offered Lamar Jackson $133 million at signing, $175 million if he got injured, and $200 million signing guarantee if he was on the roster on the 5th day of the 2026 season. So supposedly they gave him a $200 million guaranteed contract, what was offered.
Right.
Lamar doesn't have an agent. Now Lamar came back and said that bottom line was he wanted to trade in early March. Was it March 2nd or March 3rd anyway?
Right.
And yet he's still negotiating with the team. But now it looks like that they have been kind of getting to the point of no return where Lamar and the team, Lamar, I don't think wants to play for them anymore. He's kind of making overtones on Twitter. He doesn't have an agent, so he's giving all this stuff out on Twitter. So I guess the bottom line is going to be, what are they going to do? It said, Lamar actually set a tweet out saying it was unclear to tweet his actual parameters of a 3-year $133 million fully guaranteed. So supposedly Lamar's saying that they offered me a 3-year $133 million guaranteed contract. Then there's sources saying that Lamar rejected an offer of a 6-year offer which guaranteed $133 million. So it looks like they've offered him, which is more than Russell Wilson's guarantee. So I guess people are trying to figure out, it doesn't look like Lamar is going to get the $230 million guaranteed that Deshaun Watson got.
Right.
But it's getting to the point now is if he's got this wedge with the Baltimore Ravens, I mean, if they break down and say, okay, we're done, that's our offer, you want it, you don't, fine. Unless another team gets involved here, Lamar's going to play on the franchise tag of the 32 million, 33 million franchise tag.
Mm-hmm.
Unless another team steps up. Now there's talk that Lamar may sit out, but that's only going to make things worse because he will not get any money.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't next year they could tag him and he'll get the same tag.
Yeah. Because they won't escalate it.
No, it doesn't escalate.
He didn't play.
If he doesn't play, he's
He's stuck with that tag.
He's stuck with that tag next year.
Mm-hmm. He's got to understand all these things. I'm hoping that April, 27th, 26th, whatever it is for the NFL draft on that Thursday, I think it's the 27th, that we hear some type of trade somewhere in there during that first round, second day, something to get this saga over with, because it's so much going on. He said, she said, whoever said that. Can you repair? Now, we know they can. When money is involved, there's somewhere they can shake hands and say it, but it's tough. It's tough. And I'm just thinking sometimes you might want to go somewhere where to be fresh, and I mean, it was many. There's suitors out there that he fits right into there what they do.
Oh, I don't think there's any
San Fran. I mean, so many teams.
There's so many teams out there. The problem you have with the other teams is they've all seemed to be moving on.
Yeah, I mean, they have to, because this is a situation.
They got to get money with the cap.
Yep.
Get it to the NFL.
Yep. They can't fool around with this there unless you just have the, there's so much involved with it. You got the owners with their egos. You got the player with his ego. Hey, I want to get what he has. But sometimes you got to put blinders on and see, okay, this is what I'm going to get for me.
Right.
Maybe I can't get what Deshaun Watson has, but I can get something in that neighborhood that's going to take care of me.
Well, we talked, there's a cap, and agents are capped out. NFL agents are capped out at 3%.
Right.
So they can't it's not like they're going to come in and take all your money. They can't. They get 3% of it. So, I mean, Daniel Jones changed agents and got a good deal with the Giants, a big deal with the Giants. And the Giants kind of screwed themselves because they could have picked up his fifth-year option, chose not to.
Right.
And then ultimately now had to give him more money because he had a great season. He gambled on himself. It paid off.
Yep.
And the Giants had to turn around.
But I like the contract for the Giants.
Right. The Giants still
have to get out.
But they can get out after what?
2 years. It's not really.
It's like an $82 million 2-year contract. But I know basically.
But they didn't have to pay that much. They picked up his fifth year.
If they would have picked up the fifth year, they could have got out of it. But this is a good contract for Daniel Jones, because he's still going to make out $82 million in 2 years, and the Giants can get out of it. Here's the thing this is a tweet that Chris Mortensen sent out September 11th of 2022. Sources: Lamar Jackson rejected a 6-year contract offer with $133 million fully guaranteed at signing, which was more than Russell Wilson, $124 million, and more than Kyler Murray at $103 million, but well short of Deshaun Watson's $230 million. Then it goes on, it says that Mortensen sends out another tweet right after that one. It says, in terms of total money over 6 years, Jackson could have earned an excess of $290 million, and his average per year would exceed Russell Wilson's deal at $48.5 million per year, which did adjust the Ravens' final offer, but the contract was not fully geared. But it goes back, but it's not the fully guaranteed contract that Jackson sought.
Right.
And it says, then he just goes on, Jackson received active counsel from the NFLPA at highest levels, and the union advised that based on the performance and age 25, he was justified to demand a fully guaranteed contract if that's what he wanted.
Right.
But here's the thing, ultimately, that you got to understand, and I think with like Lamar Jackson, is you're not going to get the Deshaun deal.
Right.
The only way you would maybe get it is if you're going to get a team come in and start negotiating against Baltimore, but there not really doesn't seem to be any teams involved. Now, the word or rumor is they may wait till after the draft to see how all these quarterbacks fall. And if maybe some team doesn't get the quarterback they want, they may go, okay, they might make the move to get Lamar Jackson and then ultimately know they're going to pay the piper. One other thing is when you get the fully guaranteed money, this is where it gets tricky. Owners need to take that amount of money and put it in an escrow account.
Mm-hmm.
So I know these teams are worth billions and billions of dollars, But like if Lamar Jackson wants a fully guaranteed deal, the owner has to write the check and put that in an escrow account. So the owner's got to have that kind of cash at hand.
Right.
So, I don't know. Probably a lot of these owners are building, but they may not have that cash ready at hand to do that.
Yeah.
So, and then to throw the other factors in, Lamar Jackson missed the last 2 seasons. What was the last 5 games of each season, 10 games, with a knee injury. So now he's kind of, because he, now people are, is he damaged goods, but he's only 25, 26. So he could sign a 3-year deal and then at the age of 29 still become, say, if he signs a deal with no tag involved, 3-year deal, no tag, at 29, he could be a full-blown free agent. He could do anything he wants.
Yeah, and that's what I would advise him to do. And I also would advise, like, the NFLPA got involved, telling him that he could do that.
Right. Guaranteed.
And okay, you can say that your performance, when you mirror to Deshaun Watson, you have done a lot more because he's been out.
Right.
Okay, so he was out for a season. He gets this type of money. But there's a word called an anomaly, meaning it doesn't happen all the way around all the time. That's just something that happened. Haslam took forth and did that. All the owners are not going to be doing that because you strap your team so tight.
And that's the other part.
And you can't build like you need to be competitive all the way through. Now, I give Andrew Berry a lot of credit what he's doing and switching things around and may be able to keep this Cleveland team afloat as they go forward.
Well, yeah, because,
he's doing some good things with it, but
they restructured his deal recently and opened up cap room.
And then I think they'll do it again.
Oh, they will.
Or they'll extend it.
Right.
So now you can spread that money some more. But here it is that you're not going to get that kind of deal. No. You got to just know that you're not.
Right.
So, try to get as much as you can.
Right.
But you're not getting that or better. It's not going to happen because you'll blow the NFL out. I don't care how much money it does have. When you start having, you still got a cap, and then you're gonna be playing on a team getting all this money, but you're not winning because you can't put a good team together.
Spread the team.
Yeah, so you got to think about it. Enough is enough, and just get on. So I fought both.
Well, Baltimore should have probably had this done a long time ago.
Yeah, they should have did it a long time
I think they should have jumped on it. They could have had this done way before Deshaun Watson signed.
Yeah, they could have did it. And if he doesn't want to do it, then start looking for your successor. Then
start looking at
and go ahead and trade him or whatever.
Yeah.
You don't have to go through these situations, but it is what it is. And like you said, the worst thing he could do is sit out.
No, he can't. No, that doesn't. Because when you look at the players that sat out, boy, that just not. Le'Veon Bell sat out that year with Pittsburgh. That got him nowhere. Yeah, he ended up signing with the Jets, and he washed out of the league.
Yeah,
and
he was at the top of his game.
Right, he was at the top of his game. That's sad. And then he sat that year out, and then after that, he came back. He signed that deal with the Jets, and then they didn't want him, and then ultimately they
didn't have the line or nothing. He was trying to get yards on his own, just about.
And he went to a bad team with a bad line, and then he flamed out. He ended up with Kansas City. Now I don't even think he's in the league. He's gone.
Yep.
But the point is, sitting out doesn't really people need to understand that the NFL is the league. You're not bigger than the league, and they will go on without you.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's the thing too. Is no player is bigger than the league. And the reality is, if you sit out, I mean, with Lamar Jackson, now that you've had, your knee issues and you've missed games, I've seen this where, you sit out a year and then all of a sudden you become an afterthought. Baltimore moves on, and all of a sudden teams are like looking at other quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the young look at all these guys coming out now. All these quarterbacks, that you're looking at. Stroud, the guy from Alabama, can't think of that. Bryce Young. And now you're talking the young man. He's not young. He's actually old. Tennessee, Hendon Hooker.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's starting to move up the charts.
Oh yeah,
because they've interviewed him, they've watched him,
smart,
and now they thought maybe he's going to be a second day. Well, no, now people are talking maybe he gets in the second round or third round, or maybe he's forking up. And we've seen this time and time again.
Toward the first round.
He's moving toward the first round, and we've seen it time and time again. where guys will start off at a third, maybe second or fourth round pick, but as they see him on film and they interview him and they get him in the combine and it evolves, all of a sudden now they kind of look at this guy, hey, you know what? We've got coaches. We like we've watched him film. We can work with him. We think can fit this offense. And now all of a sudden,
yep. And if you watch,
he could be an early second or a late first rounder now.
Yeah.
As time evolves, the players don't play any, but teams start looking at these guys, and because the need of the quarterback is so severe.
Well, he's in that list with these quarterbacks.
Right.
If he never had the ACL. That's how well he's playing.
That's
anyway.
Right.
He was great.
He was great in the ACL, but they can come back from an ACL, and now teams are giving him are looking. You're right.
Yeah.
He was in with these guys.
Oh, yeah, he was in there with him.
And I will venture to guess come April, and I could be dead wrong, but at the end of the month when they have the draft, that Hooker doesn't end up maybe a late first rounder or an early second, because the team's thinking I'm getting a steal here and I don't have to trade out of my pick, but I need a quarterback, or I've got a quarterback, but I'm looking for the successor like Seattle.
Yep.
Or somebody along that line thinking
Seattle's the perfect one that you pick because they got a lot of draft capital.
Right.
We got to look at teams that got draft capital and then don't have what you would say a prolonged franchise quarterback. They don't. They could use some of their other draft picks to get back in the first round at the bottom.
Right.
And then pick this guy
and
knowing that
Hooker.
We're good.
Right.
Where we at with Geno. Couple of years, he can
but
go and do it.
Bring him in.
Yep, and once he's
2
ready,
years,
because the guy, like they said, his quarterback IQ is off the charts. And then when they started looking at the film, and I looked at started watching what he's doing. This guy makes all his throws. He got a strong arm. Then he's elusive, and he'll run when he has to, and he will run. He can run.
He can run.
You know, so he's a guy that's just sitting there, and then he goes to all the interviews. They ask him all this different jargon, trying to catch him off guard. He's able to tell them and design the play on the board for him. That's a guy that knows and has been studying pro football and knows what's going on.
See, and that's important.
Yep.
Because a lot of the quarterbacks, when they're drafting quarterbacks, is they're looking at a maturity factor of you're walking into a job. It's not a 9-to-5 job. You're going to come in and you're going to learn a playbook. You're going to spend a lot of time in meetings. You're going to be on the field, but you're going to be looking the playbook, interacting with players. And you're going to be interacting with how do you react to coaching? How do you, show up on time? Know the plays, get out there on the field, interact with your players. How do you interact? They look at all that. And they say, well, what the maturity factor? Is he a guy that thinks he's still in college, not, coming in late, not knowing the playbook, not knowing, they quiz you, they give you tests. You're struggling with the playbook and the test because you're not putting the time in. They look at a guy like this and say, wait, this guy he's got the IQ, the smart. He's going to study. He's going to be focused with the playbook, focusing with the players, putting the time in. Not coming in late, and then first in and last out type of guy. But if they see this, say, wait a minute, they see his performance on the field now, thinking, hey, wait a minute, maybe this is the kind of guy, if we can get him in the late first or early second round, we're going to get him.
Right.
Because we don't have to trade out of and people are paying a lot of attention to like the CJ Stroud, and they're thinking, okay, he's a great player. They're looking at Richardson. They're looking at a couple of those other guys, but they're not really paying a lot of attention to Hooker because he blew that ACL out and he kind of got forgotten. Now teams are looking at him again and say, hey, wait a minute.
Yep.
We forgot about this guy.
Yep.
So now, all of a sudden, what some folks were predicting him to be a second day pick, that would be second or third round. Now, could he creep into the late first round? I still think to this day, I've said this time and time, the worst thing Cardell Jones ever made, Ohio State, was he came back to Ohio State.
Yeah.
Because Cardell Jones would have been a late first round pick. had he come out and after they won the national title.
Right. Yep. And if you got with the right franchise in which you
and
could
the right
stay
team,
behind and learned,
you know,
he definitely had the arm.
He had the arm
to take
and
care
the
of
ability. It just,
and
you know,
the size is no
right.
question. So, yep, that's how things happen, you know. So
this is what you have going on. Is
with our
reality
quarterbacks.
is the draft is coming up. The quarterbacks. This is a big day. Going to be a big draft for quarterbacks. The Cardinals have the 3rd pick in the draft. Now there's talk about will they trade that pick? Is somebody going to go to 3rd? Now you know, that's going to be the question: is will anybody move up to the 3rd pick and take, you know, one of those quarterbacks? The Colts have the 4th pick. So, I mean, when you break it down, I think that this is going to get real interesting, because I think when the Colts are going to wait to see who's available. They've come out, a rumor has it, or what we've been told is that, you know, CJ Stroud is favored to go number 1. Bryce Young will probably go number 2 to Houston.
Right.
The Cardinals are sitting there with the 3rd pick. They've got Kyler Murray. He'll be coming off an ACL. They have to figure out who's going to get them.
Right.
But it won't. They will probably not draft a quarterback.
Right.
So, question is going to be: will a team figuring they want to get in there and get the 3rd quarterback, and will that who could be the 3rd quarterback? That's going to be the $1 million question.
Right. And you know, you got Levis there.
You got Levis and you got Richardson.
And Richardson, I just think he has to get into the right system and not play right away. He can't play.
What would be interesting to see if teams we'll talk about this on the other side of the break. It is the Saturday Morning Sports Page. Pat Lucia, Dave Clark.
Western Reserve Radio is the Valley's online source for sports talk and local live events. Tune in and be a part of their live weekly shows, as well as all of the hard-hitting action of Youngstown Phantoms hockey, high school football, and the GDFL. Find them at westernreserveradio.com. Tune in and the Live 365 app to be a part of the area's sports conversation. Be sure to visit them on Facebook at Western Reserve Radio and on Twitter at WR_radio.
Golf in the Mahoning Valley starts at Mill Creek Golf Course. Come out to the 36 beautiful hole design course by Donald Ross, and golf lessons are available by calling the team shop at 330-740-7112. Don't forget about family fun nights on Friday and Saturday evenings, a family of 4 with cart for only $25. Or visit the Wick Recreation Area and the lighted Par 3 course. Book your tee time today at 330-740-7112 or online at millcreekmetroparks.org.
Welcome to Calvin's Barbershop.
You all got to see this.
I don't even want to know what you're looking at on that phone.
Well, you should. I was learning about the dangers of high blood pressure and that we need to get ours checked regularly. High blood pressure can increase the risk of heart attack or stroke, but this text program can help keep it at a healthy range. Just text barbershop to 97779 to sign up.
I'll get right on it as soon as I'm done with this baby panda video.
Text barbershop to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
The year was 1907. The Cubs won the World Series and the Ford Model R hit the assembly line. While here in Ohio, school administrators came together to form the Ohio High School Athletic Association. One thing that hasn't changed since 1907 is the dedication of the OHSAA to education-based athletics in Ohio. School sports teach responsibility, sportsmanship, and life lessons that stay with students long after their playing days are over. The OHSAA seeks to prepare students not for the next level of sport, but for the next level of life.
Saturday Morning Sports Page, Pat Lucia, Dave Clark. 330-707-4202. Let's go ahead. Well, obviously, we've talked a lot about NFL, the draft, and what these teams. That one we wanted to reference. Mel Kiper basically had Stroud going to the Panthers, Bryce Young going to the Texans. Then he's got the Colts moving up with Arizona to take Will Levis, and then the Cardinals switching with the Colts to take their fourth pick. They would take Will Anderson out of Georgia, and then at the fifth pick, and Anthony Richardson would be going to Seattle. Right. And then the Lions take Jalen Carter. The Raiders would take Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon corner. Devon Witherspoon, cornerback out of Illinois, would go to the Falcons. The Bears would take Paris Johnson out of Ohio State, O-tackle. And then the Eagles take Nick Skoronski, O-line out of Northwestern. So that's what he's got, his 10, which looks pretty, Now, rumor has it the Jets are going after Paris Johnson. We didn't get to that. It looks like the Jets and the trade's going to, the compensation has been kind of agreed upon. The Packers and the
finally,
yeah, haven't officially. What I read where the Packers are not, going to stand on the first round pick. Ultimately, let's see if we get Irish Mike back. But anyway, they've got what's his name? Supposedly the Jets have that second round pick they got for Cleveland, and ultimately they're going to have that trade done. The compensation they've kind of had a handshake on.
Hopefully they can get this done and let's get the drama.
Kill the drama.
And it looks like OBJ is sitting there.
It looks like OBJ is waiting for that, and he might end up with the Jets.
Yeah. Well, we know that offensively right there, and they upgraded their offensive line over the last couple of years. They could be something to reckon with. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens. I think ultimately they were saying, I read the article earlier, that the Packers have moved off their demand for their first round pick, which was the 13th overall. And that ultimately they'll take the second round pick. And what they'll do is next year, that pick could potentially, like if Rodgers leads the Jets to the conference finals, they would get a first round. If he gets them in the playoff, it's like a second round.
Yeah.
So something along that one pick next year, because if Rodgers would up and leave after 1 year, the Jets don't want to have to give up a first round pick for him. So the Packers are trying to work that into the deal where they'll get the second round this year, and then the next year pick could be a first round, could be a second round, maybe a third round,
depending on
what result Rodgers gives the Jets in his first year.
Yeah.
So that seems like they've got that kind of a handshake deal since the Packers moved off the first round pick, and the Jets will probably give them a second round. And it also came out the Jets did come out and say they're not in the Lamar Jackson sweepstakes at all, because they're focusing in on getting Rodgers.
Yeah, and it's too much to focus in on once. Go ahead and get it, and see where they can go from there. Yep. I want him to go ahead and finally see him there. He definitely, if he's got any capabilities left, and I'm sure he does, he's got a lot to work with. He's got some offensive firepower to set the Jets. They got some firepower.
Yeah, they got power. They're going to be good.
And their defense is already pretty good, so they could be dangerous.
Well, there's rumor that a lot of experts believe Odell Beckham is going to end up there.
Yeah, and especially if they get this done with Rodgers, I think he might sign before it.
Lazard is already there. They already traded for Lazard, who was with Green Bay. So, they've got a good receiving core there. If they throw Beckham in, Rodgers has come out and said, "I want to go there. I'm in. Trade me. I'm all in with the Jets."
I mean, if you got Lazard, somebody's familiar with, we know what OBJ can do, and Garrett Wilson hasn't even hit his
Was the offensive player of the year.
Yeah. And he is, as a rookie, he was great. Just think where he's going. So you get all those guys, and then you get Breece Hall back, who looked like the best running back in the NFL early in the season until he blew that ACL. But they said he recovered real good. His surgery went good. He's done recovered good. He'll be ready. And then they got the backups too. So, you know, they got Carter still there, Michael Carter, and then they signed their other running back. They're ready all the way around there. So, you know, and yes, Zach Wilson is still there, but he can sit behind Rodgers and learn how to be a professional. Complete professional.
Well,
you know?
We'll see. I mean, you know,
he has a chance. Hopefully he can rehabilitate
resurrect that career of Zach Wilson. Maybe
it's all up to where his psyche is. If that didn't, if it didn't destroy that, he can get back on track. If he's got to be strong-willed. That's one of the reasons I like Geno Smith, because that guy that went through everything he could imagine. He should have been washed out the league, where most guys you wouldn't even hear about him. But this guy stayed confident that he could play, and he just needed somebody to believe totally in him and put him in the right position to succeed. And he showed he can be a starting quarterback without question.
He proved, he could pretty much overcome, kind of being considered a bust by all the experts out there. Thought Geno Smith's career was over.
Mm-hmm.
And he was able to get with Pete Carroll out in Seattle and resurrect his career.
Yeah.
Now he signed another free agent deal, which is, I think, about a 2-year deal too, also big money. And it seems like that's what a lot of the NFL teams are doing. Like you see what Seattle did with Geno, and what the Giants did with Daniel Jones. Really gave him 2-year deals.
Yeah. And guys should be satisfied with that to a certain extent, because the cap goes back up either next year or the year after. It goes up, way up.
Right.
So for you to negotiate one deal, you can get an extremely bigger deal in a couple years. So,
right. And that's kind of what, now Joe Burrow and T. Higgins are in the process of negotiating their deal with the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
People thought T. Higgins would either get traded. I think he's got a year left on his deal, but the Bengals want to keep him and he wants to stay there. So he's in the and they came out and said that their negotiations are being close to the vest, which means they're not telling anybody what's going on.
Right.
So, I mean, maybe they see what's going on with Lamar Jackson in Baltimore and they don't want any part of that.
Right.
So Burrow and T. Higgins are doing their negotiations, and they will probably get those done.
Yeah.
And
that's very good to do. Keep your team solid.
Keep the team solid.
I give them and I give the Browns credit with all the stuff going on. You don't hear a lot of stuff. All you hear is they sign this person, but they doing some sneaky good stuff. Both teams, even the Bengals, by getting, I forgot the offensive lineman,
Brown, Orlando Brown Jr.
Yeah, I mean,
they picked him up. I mean, that was the deal.
Yeah.
And they're going to shore up that offensive line. So when you break it down, I think the Bengals will get a deal done with Burrow. I won't be surprised if it's like a deal like Mahomes signed, a 10-year deal. See, the longer the deal, the more they can play around with bonuses and they get around that cap. And it's just because you hear them talk about it. And like Brady Quinn knows a lot about NFL contracts. And he's on there one time explaining, like, when they sign those long-term deals, they can really move that money around and move it and bonus it and extend it out where they're not taking a dead cap hit, and then they're not killing their cap paying the player, because they can move it out over the period of the contract. So sometimes the longer the contract, the team has more flexibility with how they pay the player.
Right.
So I'm not surprised. I won't be surprised if T. Higgins and Joe Burrow end up with good deals, but they're longer term, and the team can play around with the money as far as how to pay it out in bonus. And, they do this over a period of the contract and can move it around.
Yep.
So they're not getting hit
with all that.
And can sign other players to keep the team improved.
And that's why I think the same thing for the Browns. keeping everything good like that, giving all these weapons to Watson so he can have a big season. That can convince him to stick around. They can extend that contract.
Oh, yeah.
Play around because they're putting everything in place for him to have a monster season.
Right.
Seriously. They're going to start throwing, and even though they're going to spread their offense, people think that's the end of Chubb. Well, it might be the end of Chubb of 25 and 30 carries, but he might be a guy that gets 16 carries, but still get 140 yards.
Right. And still
because those running lanes is going to be big.
See, I give Cleveland credit, and this is kind of what I think Baltimore wants to do with Lamar is they want to get him on a long-term deal, and they want to give it. So they're going to give him a lot of guaranteed money, but he's just not going to get the Deshaun Watson guaranteed, but he can still get we've read those numbers off earlier in the show, that they're still giving you a lot of guaranteed money. So, and you've been hurt. So they're still, they want to keep you, and they still want to give you a good amount of money. And I guess the thing is, when you look at the average fan, they're looking at, nobody's really saying, poor Lamar Jackson, they're really not giving him any money. They're giving him a lot of money here. I mean, he's getting millions upon millions of dollars. And, I said they were actually giving him more guaranteed money than Russell Wilson got and Kyler Murray had. So, I mean, he's in, and they're not like lowballing him. They're giving him a good amount of money. They just don't want to do the Deshaun number of Watson number of the 230 million. And he seems to be focused in on that. And and the problem is he doesn't have the agent. And the advantage of having the agent, there we say the agent is like cartilage. It kind of is the between you and that agent, where they could work with you and then work with the team, and you're not hearing it directly from the team sometimes, which is maybe a good thing. So the agent helps that end, and then they can, get with the team and get it spread out and explain to the player, hey, you're still getting this amount of guaranteed money. It's going to be spread out, but you're still getting it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think the agent has a good role in that. And again, they cap out at 3%, so they're not getting all your money.
Right.
And they actually did a thing that they showed they were starting to look at the net worth of the players or money. And like Josh Allen came out the same time as Lamar Jackson. He's making a lot more money and has a lot more money than Lamar Jackson. And he's got the agent. And they're trying to explain that the agent is a good thing in a lot of these cases. I'm not saying he needs to get an agent, but this thing has just gone off the rails right now with Lamar Jackson. I don't know. And then he talks about sitting out. That's going to probably end. I'm not going to end the career, but it's taking a career in a really bad direction if he sits out.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you don't have no alternative.
No.
There's no alternative league to go to or anything of that nature. So
not an alternative league that's going to pay you this kind of money.
Right. So you're going to have to figure it out. It may be he finally has to get an agent, or he needs to be advised by, even if he don't want an agent that he signs with.
Right.
He's got to get some kind of agreement with somebody that can advise him to go the correct way, and he may have to pay them something. But he has to get something. He got to get the right information.
Well, he's got to get the right, because he has this guy, the gym equipment guy, representing him supposedly down in Florida. But he says he's not.
Yeah.
But supposedly he was trying to call teams, and the teams are saying, no, you can't. The teams have that rule that you can't negotiate with an agent who's basically not qualified with the league.
Right.
So that's the other problem, I think, that came out. And now Lamar says, no, he's not representing me. He's just a friend of mine. But the guy evidently was contacting teams, and the teams can't talk to him.
Right.
So again, this is just not going in a good direction. And the more you hear about it, it's just like not going to go well for Lamar. So either you figure, either get with Baltimore, look at the offer that they've thrown you, see if you can get that offer that we've talked about, the $200 million guaranteed, and just see if you can sign that deal now and move on and then be their quarterback. Because I don't know if anybody's going to trade for Lamar. Now, maybe at the end of this draft might happen.
Yeah.
Potentially.
It's potential there.
You never rule it out, but teams are pretty set, though,
Yeah.
And the thing with rookie quarterbacks is the best part is they're rookie quarterbacks, but they're also rookie deals.
Yeah.
So teams have a lot of flexibility when they have a rookie quarterback, especially if the rookie quarterback takes off.
Right.
The best thing a team can have, and this is anything, when you have a team and you outperform the contract, when a player outperforms the contract, that's a big bonus to the team.
Mm-hmm.
The worst teams have as a rule of thumb, have probably more players underperforming their contract. Teams that are successful usually have players that outperform their contract because you're getting a bigger bang for your buck. You can almost use that on anything.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So, he's gonna have to do something. People were calling it collusion, and I don't say that. Normally I'm on the player side, but I don't see. He didn't say it. Didn't hear from Lamar, but a lot of people were saying that first. I don't look at that as collusion at all. That's just smart business. I can't spend that kind of money. Somebody else did it. Okay, they can do it. Do it. I can't do that because I'm a handcuffed the rest of my team. I'm not doing it. So, and everybody, majority are going to say that because they don't want to hand strap their team of giving the opportunity.
And that's what you have right now. Is
I have more collusion on a guy not playing would be somebody like Cam Newton before I would say Lamar Jackson. Because when I look at guys that we done seen as backups in this league, and you got a guy, Cam Newton, who can't get a job anywhere, that's kind of weird to me. That this guy can't even get a job, and we done seen some people, we was wondering how in the world they even stepped on an NFL field. They look so terrible. I mean, we done seen it over the years. Especially, I can't think about one guy that we used to talk about a few years back. He was always on a team somewhere. So there's no way that Cam Newton can't be on somewhere in this league. Still wants to play. Here he is at a pro day, Auburn's pro day, throwing for the receivers. And they seeing that his arm is still there and everything like that. But I think his mechanics had suffered majorly, and that's why he was underthrown, throwing the ball into the dirt.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was his injuries.
And the injuries, too. I think all that. Because from the injuries, your mechanics sometimes get hampered. I think the best thing was for him not playing so his body could really finally kind of recover, and maybe he'll be a guy that could be a backup.
He could be a backup somewhere.
But not to even get a sniff at nowhere to even be a backup, that's weird to me. I don't understand. When I can't think of the one guy we used to make fun of. There was always a backup quarterback. Actually was in the game starting for somebody. I forgot. I can't think of his name. I want to say he went to Pitt or something. I can't remember. But we talked about him all the time. We used to bring his name up and say, how in the world is this guy in the league? We used to make jokes.
What was it? Was it Tyler?
Yeah, wait a minute.
Was it Tyler was it Hansford or what was this guy?
No, I forgot this guy.
It was yeah, it was. Yeah, who was that? I know we.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah,
I know there was a backup. He was everywhere in the league.
And we didn't understand how he could even make it.
How does this guy keep making the roster? He was just rotating league after league.
Oh man!
And I think he played for Pitt. And I know that I can't. I have to look this thing up, but I know who it is. Sliding over a little bit to the NBA.
Yes.
A week from this Sunday, Easter Sunday, is the last day. April 9th is the last day for the NBA.
That is right.
Season will conclude.
Next Sunday.
Next Sunday is it. So when you look at the way the East is a little bit more set than the West.
Yeah.
Looks like now the Knicks beat the Cavaliers last night.
Mm-hmm.
The Knicks sit in the 5th position. They're 2.5 games past over the Nets, the 6th. It looks like the Cavs already got the 4th spot pretty much tied up. They're not going to catch Philly. They're 2.5 behind Philly. I don't think they're going to get Philly at the 3 spot. But the Knicks look like they're going to have the 5th spot. The Nets right now are 2 games past Miami. So the Nets are the 6th spot. Miami's in the playoff tournament at 7. It actually looks like the Chicago Bulls have the 10th spot Now they could maybe get to the 8th or 9th, but the Washington Wizards are 3 games behind the Bulls. So it looks like the NBA, the East part is pretty much set. The West, however, we like to call it the Wild Wild West for the playoff picture because, boy, these teams are just so tightly knit on top of one another. Right now, the Dallas Mavericks are out of the playoffs as of today. They're a half a game out. Of Oklahoma City Thunder is 10. The Lakers now are sitting at the 12th. They are 7th game. They're only a game and a half behind the Warriors to get out of the play-in tournament and get the 6th seed. So when you look at Phoenix is at 9, and they're the 4th spot. They're at the 4th spot. There is basically between Phoenix and the Dallas Mavericks, it's 5 games difference. That's the 4th spot to the 11th spot. Then all those teams are just jammed in there on top of one another. So the nutshell is when you look at the West Conference in the NBA, you're really not going to have the seeding figured out until probably the last game of the season. And teams could be in and out. Like Dallas could be in or out. You might have to wait till the last game of the season to determine if Dallas gets into the play-in tournament or not, as of right now. And then it looks like the Lakers have at least given a little bit of a breathing spot, not much, because they're only 2 games in the tournament right now. They're 2 games past Dallas, but the Pelicans are 2 games past. Minnesota's a game and a half, and Oklahoma's a half a game over Dallas. So you could see how tight that is between Dallas getting in and out of the tournament.
Right.
So one of those teams could fall out if they go into a bad losing streak.
Yes.
So the NBA Western Conference is totally up for grabs as far as seeding goes. The top seeds are pretty much in. Denver 1, Memphis 2. Sacramento clinched the first time since ever. Sacramento is in the playoffs with the 3 seed. It looks like they have that nailed down. They're 5 games over Phoenix. They've clinched the 3rd seed. So it looks like 1, 2, and 3 in the West is probably pretty much nailed down. After that, it can get a little hairy because the Clippers and the Warriors and Phoenix are all kind of they're in that group. That could move. So the West is wide open. The East is getting a little bit more solidified. We'll probably figure by this time next week,
you should know the West.
You'll know the East. You won't know the West.
Right.
You'll have a game left after Saturday, or maybe 2 games left. So at the end of the day, the West is still wide open for seeding purposes, and Dallas could play in or play out of the tournament, but so could any of those other teams.
And the Lakers are right now at what? 8?
They're at 7.
At 7. They'll if they stayed there, they'll be out of the play-in tournament, right?
If they're in 7, they are in the play-in tournament. They have to get into the 6th seed to get out of the play-in tournament.
That's right.
Right now, Golden State and the Clippers are tied at 5 and 6, and they're only a game and a half past the Lakers. The Lakers could actually get out of the play-in tournament and get into one of the top 6 spots, but they would need the Warriors and the Clippers to lose, and the Lakers obviously have to win. But they're not far. The Lakers aren't far out of that either.
Yeah, because I think the Clippers lost last night.
Yeah, they did. They're 41 and 37. They're tied right now with Golden State. They're sitting at 5 and 6. Clippers at 5, Golden State at 6, both with the same record at 41 and 37.
Okay.
So those teams are, but the Lakers and the New Orleans Pelicans are right behind them because the Lakers and the Pelicans have the same record at 39 and 38.
Wow.
And then the Timberwolves are only a half a game behind those teams because they're 39 and 39. So, and the last team, Oklahoma City Thunder, is 38 and 40. So they're like kind of right there too. So you could see when you look at this, the Western Conference in the NBA is just, as we refer as the Wild Wild West, because these teams are so tight. They're literally on top of one another. And it could, again, it's going to be, if somebody goes on a bad losing streak, they could be out of the playoffs, or they could actually be in the 6th spot. They could play themselves in, or they could play out of the play-in to the good part, or play out of it to the bad part.
Or all the way out.
Or all of out, right.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting.
So that's kind of how the West is. The West, again,
that was a good decision to keep that. Yeah, I know they just tried it because of the COVID situation.
I think it's a good idea because I just think it just sparks that, people still have a chance, that or teams are still in that mode if they could get in the playoffs, get in that play-in tournament, maybe get hot, go on a roll, and then maybe you could play, you could potentially play into an NBA title. Although you usually don't get that in the NBA because their 7-game series are usually teams. Or, you don't get too many upsets in the NBA.
Yeah, it's a little
like
different.
College, you have 1 game. But right now, you got Milwaukee 1, Boston 2, Philly 3, and Cleveland 4. And then the other is Denver, Grizzlies, and Sacramento. They've all clinched. They're in. Then everybody else is trying to get in. Phoenix is still hanging in. They're trying to get in.
Yeah, 4. Is they at 4?
They're at 4 right now, but they're not catching Sacramento. They're 5 games behind Sacramento, who sits at 3. And they're only a game and a half over the Clippers and Golden State.
Yeah, it's been a good while since Sacramento, since the
Weber
and Vlade days.
Yep. That's the show. Thanks for listening, everybody. Pat Lucia, Dave Clark. It is the Saturday Morning Sports Page. Do not drink and do not drive. Buckle up. Stay safe.
You're listening to Western Reserve Radio, WRDB, The Scourge, a part of the Sports Map Radio Network.
Okay, what are you wearing right now?
Nothing.
That's right. So mommy's going to teach you how to dress yourself. Underwear always